In this video, I'll be going over the full story of how inheriting a tenant cost me $5,670 in rent, months in personal time to renovate the unit, fireworks being launched at my apartment, and many conversations that made me question ever even getting into real estate. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and we'll jump into the video. All right, first let's start off with a little background. So I was searching for a duplex 2 years back in the Concord market. This is at the height of the COVID era where everything is flying off the market with no contingencies. At this point in time, the median days on market in the Concord area was 1 week from when you listed it to when you were under contract. So in order to get a property in this market, you need to be lightning fast and present a strong offer with minimum contingencies. Strong offer in this market is well over asking price offer with zero inspection, a large down payment, and a large earnest money deposit up front, as well as a quick close. So I've been searching at this point for a year and finally came across a property that was exactly what I was looking for. I mean, it was perfect. It was a huge townhouse style duplex with side-by-side units, 2,000 square feet each, 3 stories on each side, hardwood floors, big bay windows, expansive kitchens, and even a small yard, which at the time I didn't have. So the small yard was a big selling point because I have a pup. Plumbing's up to date, systems were all in good shape, and overall we're just well kept and in good order. One thing that was a little weird is when I toured the place, I could only see one unit. I couldn't see the unit that I would ultimately be inheriting at the time. I didn't think much of it because I figured they were likely busy and they just didn't want people traipsing through their house, which is fine. So I submitted an offer at the same day that the duplex actually hit the market with a contingency of satisfactory review of that unit that I would be seeing. So what that meant is if I saw something after going under contract that I didn't like with the unit, I could withdraw my offer with no loss of my earnest money because we're still in the due diligence period. I was nervous as the property was everything I'd been searching for and more. It was literally perfect. I needed more space at the time, so I could even move into one of the units and rent out the other to kind of supplement the mortgage and offset my rent. So now I'm envisioning myself in the actual unit and how everything's gonna be laid out and in good order. I brought my girlfriend at the time, so she's envisioning how she wants to decorate the place and what she's gonna do to kind of get everything laid out. It was the perfect spot for us, so we could really picture ourselves in the actual property. A few days after submitting the offer, it was accepted and we were through the moon excited. Like I said, this was everything that we wanted. This was a perfect place, so this was an amazing news. I checked out the other unit, it seemed great. The tenants, we'll call them John and Jan. John and Jan seemed nice. They had a young child and a dog, so nice little family. Seemed a little messy, but when you're doing these walkthroughs, you're not really looking in the weeds. You're only looking at the big ticket items like the plumbing, electrical, appliances, windows, these kind of things that they're on their last leg, you want to know so you can prepare. Or if they're on their last leg and you can't afford it, then you can pull out of the deal during this period. It's also kind of common decency when you're doing these walkthroughs. You're not really opening up drawers and cabinets and stuff like that. You're really just honing in on the bigger ticket items once again. Maybe looking under the sink to see if the plumbing's up to date, that kind of thing. So September 30th, 2022 comes around. It's closing day on my new property. Closing is uneventful, obviously, because negotiations have been done and completed up until this point. So it's really just signing papers at the title team. Both units were rented out at the time, so I reached out to both tenants to introduce myself as their new landlord. I provided my contact information and also outlined how the rent checks would be made payable. One unit, the tenant was planning on moving out at the end of the month, and John and Jan still had a year left at their lease. Their rent was 60% of what the market is, which is a minor detail. It is what I signed up for, but it's just something to know. So the tenants on the side that I would be moving into finally moved out at the end of that month as they previously planned. I bought a U-Haul immediately for that weekend, loaded it up, and moved into my new home. I think I did it in a day. I was up until 2 a.m. just because I wanted to get into the new place. So now I'm building neighbors with John and Jan. We do share a wall, but it's somewhat thick. You can't hear normal conversations, but if someone was to yell or play loud music, then you would hear it, obviously. So John would pretty consistently play music in the evening time with the volume very high, to the point where you could almost hear a thump on the walls. I didn't want to be a jerk being the new landlord, so I didn't say anything, and it really didn't bother me too much since my office is on the 3rd floor. floor. That's where I kind of hang out. So where this is on the first floor, it wasn't really bothering me that much. And I didn't want to just complain to complain, especially where I'm the new landlord and trying to keep the peace almost. So fast forward about 8 months and not much happens. There's an occasional yelling amongst John and Jan, but nothing really noteworthy. They're a couple, couples fight. It is what it is. 8 months in and now John and Jan's lease is coming to an expiration. I gave them 60 days notice that I will not be renewing the lease so they can have time to find new living accommodations. 30 days out from lease expiration, Jan reaches out asking if they can extend an additional month as they're having a tough time finding these new living accommodations. I obviously don't want this family to be homeless, so I say no problem at all. Use the additional time to find a new apartment. Another 30 days pass. So now they have about 30 days left on this new lease. It is 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday and I hear multiple like gunshots. So I immediately think the house is getting shot at. I run to the back window to where I see John lighting off Roman candles in our wooded backyard. Now, I have maybe a 20 by 20 backyard and it's wooded. We live in the city, so we don't have much land. We're surrounded by additional buildings. And local laws are that you can't light off fireworks without permission of the landowner. There is a noise ordinance in addition to that because we're in a compact city. And these fireworks are barely clearing the roof where there's a risk of setting the whole house on fire. So I informed him of this and he completely denied it, even though I was watching him do it. John then followed up and said, if he was to do it, Roman candles are not fireworks. So at this point in time, I really have two options. I can either argue with John about how Roman candles are in fact fireworks, or I let this thing die down, express my dissatisfaction with it, and just hope for an easy transition at the end of the 30 days. We're getting to the close where I'm never gonna have to deal with this guy again, so just let it fizzle out. So throughout the remainder of the month, as we get closer to the end of the lease, I get increasingly worried that I don't see any moving trucks or real movement implying that they're moving out. I sent a notice outlining the last day of the actual lease, and I also reiterated what the expectations were for the final walkthrough and key exchange. I still don't see moving trucks as we're about a week out from when they're supposed to be gone. Now, the expectations set forth to John and Jan is that the house is to be vacated in broom swept condition with all the keys left in the mailbox, lights off, and doors locked by 5 p.m. of their lease expiration. The lease expiration comes and John and Jan decided to leave all moving out until the day they needed to be out. Now, I'm a little relieved at this point because yeah, they waited until the last minute, but at least I'm not gonna have to deal with a squatting situation. But also in the back of my head, I'm thinking, how in the world are they gonna move 3 stories of stuff out in 5 hours, 6 hours at this point in time? They were finally out by midnight and they left the place the couldn't be more picture perfect opposite of what I asked. They were out by almost 1 a.m., left all the lights on, doors unlocked, and the place was left an absolute mess. They left loads of trash, beds, food in the refrigerator, food in the sink, holes in the walls, left a fish tank. Let me just show you. So as you can see, the place was left in absolute shambles. Took way more time than I'd expected. Lost a couple months in rent because I had to go in and completely renovate the unit above and beyond what I expected because they didn't leave the place in broom swept condition, to say the least. I believe in all stories ending on a good note, however, so the units have since been updated and upgraded. It's fully rented out. Haven't heard from John and Jan, so we're in good spirits here, and this is now just a learning lesson. So if you get anything out of this video, make sure you know who you're about to get into what I would call a marriage for the next year when buying a property, when you're inheriting a tenant. Hope you got something out of this video. Please don't forget to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and check out one of my other videos over here.